So I've had a number of people reach out and say, hey, I've been rounded up, I got my letter, I've been rounded up into Q2, and I've got 10 or 15 years of experience, and I'm actually offended by being placed in Q2. I hear you, I get it, and so I wanted to explain how we give you credit for time. So in the new system, once we get past this transition period, your time and position doesn't matter. Let's say you're hired in at Q1. After 2 years, you move to Q2. After 2 years, you move to Q3. At that time, you can immediately take an assessment and skip Q3 and move into E1. 2 more years to E2. 2 more years to E3. At that point, you can again immediately take an assessment for the expert level and skip both E3 and E4 and go into X1. So in the future, time and position really doesn't matter except as I just explained. But for the transition period, we want to give people credit for their time. So there are actually 2 points in time from the transition. And this is just one of the pain points of moving from no system to having a system. So in October of this year, we literally just want to get everyone at a step in the new system. So the way that we opted to do that is to just take everyone's current pay where it is and round them up. That means the person who asked this particular question who rounded up to Q2, their pay right now is between Q1 and Q2. We round them up. But we recognize that this does not reflect the value of someone who has worked here for 10 or 15 years. They very likely do have the skills to assess into either the experienced or the expert level. And the way that we figure that out and give that credit is through the assessments that begin in January. So this person who has 10 or 15 years of experience should and can and should request an assessment in next year. And they would very likely assess into at least the experience and possibly even the expert level. If they do assess into the experience level, next year and next year only for the transition, they don't jump to E1, they jump all the way to E4 because they have more than 6 years of experience. That's how the time and position is credited with the assessment. That same person with 10 or 15 years experience very likely could assess into the expert level. If they assess into the expert level, they'll jump all the way from Q2 up to X2 because they have more than 2 years of experience in the position. That is how we're giving credit for experience and the skills that you've developed as an employee of the trust. Now, the assessments are starting in January, but we know that this first year that we'll have to phase them in. So we're starting with folks in the A range who are the lowest paid, then the B range, then the C range, etc. This person who's in the C range very likely would not get their assessment in January, but we also don't want anyone to be penalized based upon the timing of their assessment. So let's say we get around to the C range in March or April of next year. This person assesses, and let's just say they're going to go to the X level. They would get their pay increase at the time of the assessment, but because we don't want anyone to be penalized, they would actually get back pay in a lump sum payment all the way back to January so that the timing of their assessment doesn't impact their ultimate payout. That's how time and position works in the new system and in the transition period. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Feedback@presidiotrust.gov. We appreciate your feedback.